Discover the incredible journey of William Shakespeare. Heartwarming bedtime stories for grown-ups in a small, struggling town. Ellen Miller stood before her modest classroom filled with dreams, a stark contrast to the chipped walls and peeling paint that surrounded her. With a warm smile, she breathed life into the words of Shakespeare, igniting a fire in the hearts of her students. The joy with which she recited, "To be or not to be," echoed around the room, wrapping everyone in a warm embrace of possibility. Yet, outside the school's walls lay a different reality. Ellen's heart raced as the bills piled high at home, reminding her of her burdens. With two lively daughters, Sarah and Lily, her world was a tapestry of love and struggle. Each night, after the dinner dishes were stacked precariously, she would gather them on the couch, whispering tales of love and courage, as Shakespeare's lines danced through their home like wisps of hope. But hope clashed with reality when the council dismissed her proposal for a community play. Their sneers, laced with elitism, forced Ellen to swallow her pride. "You want to unite this town with Shakespeare?" They'd mocked, their laughter ringing cold and bitter in her ears. The relentless grind of unpaid bills threatened to dim the light in her daughter's eyes, and she found herself questioning everything. Should she trade her dreams for menial work just to make ends meet? It felt like a betrayal of her spirit. Then came the moment that devastated her. A cruel rumor swirled through the school, targeting her precious girls. Ellen's heart shattered as they trudged home, eyes downcast, drowned in the weight of their classmates' taunts. "Your mom thinks she's a star," echoed through the hallways, turning her daughters into unwilling targets. Each tear left streaks on Ellen's soul, and amid her despair, she realized that she could no longer fight alone. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Ellen organized an open mic night at the community center, inviting everyone rich, poor, or indifferent to rise and share their own stories inspired by the bard. As the night arrived, the air thrummed with anticipation. Faces filled the hall, all eyes flickering with curiosity. Ellen shared her own fears, her voice trembling yet strong. One by one, stories unfolded, as neighbors once estranged found courage in shared vulnerability. Then, from the back, a figure emerged. A veteran, once fractured by the past, stepped forward. With every word he spun, his heartfelt speech illuminated hope, woven with Shakespearean references. The audience held its breath, a pulsing energy building as realization dawned. Here was the connection they so desperately needed. But just as the room swelled with warmth and laughter, the threat from the council loomed like a storm cloud. Ellen's chest tightened as she feared what tomorrow might bring. Would they stand together against the dark forces that sought to silence them? A palpable tension filled the room, leaving the community perched on the edge of a transformation that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Ellen clung tightly to hope as she wondered if their voices would be strong enough to withstand the impending storm. The next day, the sun peeked through the clouds, casting a golden hue across the community center. Ellen felt a strange mix of optimism and trepidation as she prepared for the meeting with the town council. She glanced at her daughters, their laughter ringing through the kitchen where they devoured pancakes. For a moment, she could almost forget the looming shadow of uncertainty hanging over them all. Ellen took a deep breath, steeling herself against her fears. "We need to show them what we can do," she whispered, giving each of her girls a reassuring squeeze. Sarah and Lily nodded, their eyes sparkling with the kind of belief only children can muster. As they approached the council building, the vibrant community spirit she had seen at the open mic night fluttered in her chest. Residents gathered outside, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. Ellen's heart raced. It was more than just a meeting now. It was a battle for their dreams, for the stories that meant everything. As they entered, the room buzzed with voices. Ellen took her place at the front, the faint scent of stale coffee mixing with the weight of expectations hanging in the air. The council members, seated like judges, glanced at one another, their expressions dark and skeptical. "Thank you for giving me the chance to speak," she began, her voice steady but barely masking the nervous tremor within. "Last night we came together, people from different walks of life, sharing our stories. Stories that matter. Shakespeare showed us the power of connection, of understanding each other. That's what our community needs." She paused, feeling the eyes of the crowd on her. The faces of parents, neighbors, and even children filled her with resolve. Ellen continued, painting a picture of hope and unity, and her dreams of a community play that could transcend their struggles. "Imagine a night where we can all come together, where laughter and tears are shared, where we remind one another that we aren't alone in our battles." Suddenly, a voice interrupted, sharp as glass. "And what makes you think that the townspeople will rally behind this far-fetched idea?" The councilman's sneer sliced through the thickening air. Ellen's heart expedited its beat, the weight of doubt suddenly pressing down. "We're tired," another voice cried out from the crowd, trembling yet fierce. A single mother stepped forward, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "Tired of feeling invisible. Tired of fighting against the tide alone." She looked at Ellen, and the spark of connection ignited a flicker of hope within the room. The energy shifted, the council seemed momentarily caught off guard. They glanced at each other, uncertainty clouding their once steadfast expressions. Ellen felt her spirit surge. Perhaps they weren't as isolated as the council had imagined. One by one, more voices rose from the crowd, sharing their own stories of struggle and dreams. The room pulsed with emotion, and Ellen felt revived, a sense of empowerment washing over her. However, just as she sensed victory within grasp, the council members huddled together, whispering among themselves. When they turned back, Ellen braced herself. The tension in the air felt suffocating. With a solemn expression, the head councilman spoke up. "We have some concerns about this initiative." Ellen's stomach dropped, her earlier confidence teetering on a cliff. Would they shatter her fragile resolve? What if their voices weren't enough? As the words hung in the air, mixed with hope and dread, Ellen wondered if this was a turning point or just another setback. Would they find the strength to break free from the chains of skepticism and ignite a movement that would reshape their town forever? The answer seemed just out of reach, lingering like the last note of a beautiful song. Ellen's heart pounded in rhythm with the restless whispers that filled the council room. The electricity in the air crackled, wrapping around her, a harsh reminder of their lives hanging in balance. She watched as the council huddled closer, frowns deepening on their faces, turning her hopeful spark into a shadow of anxiety. "Concerns?" she repeated softly to herself, barely moving her lips. The word felt heavy, like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of doubt. The head councilman cleared his throat, his gaze cold and calculated. "First, we question the interest level of your proposed play." He glanced around, as if needing affirmation from his fellow members. "How can we justify using town funds for an event that may not resonate with our residents?" Ellen's skin prickled. She opened her mouth, ready to fight back, but the words caught in her throat. All the stories she collected, all the passionate pleas from the people, swirled in her head. She couldn't bear to watch their dreams crumple under the weight of authority. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the back. "It will resonate." A middle-aged man stepped forward, his eyes wide with fervor. "We're not just a town. We're a community. Our stories matter. If we don't stand together, we'll continue to drown in silence." The crowd erupted in applause. Ellen felt her pulse quicken. The tide was turning. "Exactly," she added, emboldened by his words. "We need this not just for entertainment but for healing. Stories unite us. They remind us we share the same struggles, the same hopes for a brighter tomorrow." She glanced at her daughters, their small faces illuminated with excitement and worry. "We can teach our children about resilience and the beauty of community." The head councilman shifted awkwardly, eyebrows raised. But what about costs? Infrastructure? Resources? His tone was condescending, but his voice trembled just enough to signal uncertainty. Ellen leaned in. We can fund it ourselves. Everyone in this room is willing to contribute. But it starts with you believing that change is possible. The murmurs swelled, the air thick with anticipation. A woman at the front clutched her friend's hand, raising her other arm. I'll bake, I'll donate. Whatever it takes. Others rallied, voices growing louder, sharing offers of support. Local businesses ready to pitch in. Ellen's heart soared. It was more than just her dream now. It was theirs. One of the council members caught Ellen's eye, her expression softer, her skepticism fading, if only slightly. Ellen focused her energy on her, almost willing her to see the truth of their shared narratives. But just as hope began to blossom, the head councilman slammed a folder onto the table, breaking the moment. We need facts. This community play of yours needs a solid plan, numbers, something tangible. We cannot approve something so unstructured. Ellen felt the air wrench from her lungs. How could they? But we're already here, shouted a young woman. We're providing the passion, the stories. We'll write it, Ellen exclaimed, heart racing. We'll build a proposal, involve everyone. There's power in our collective voices. The council seemed to hesitate. She could see the doubt shifting, the crowd's energy pulling at their rigid attitudes. We'll do this together, a voice shouted, and cheers erupted. Ellen turned back to the council, eyes blazing. You have a choice: stand with us or refuse the heart of this community. But we're not going away. The room vibrated with anticipation. Would they finally see the spark of hope swirling among the crowd? Ellen couldn't shake the feeling that a pivotal moment rested just ahead, ready to break through if they just pushed a little harder. As the council's huddle began to dissolve, and hesitant glances exchanged between them, Ellen's heart fluttered with a mix of dread and exhilaration. What would their decision be? Would they embrace the unity the crowd had fought so hard to build? Tomorrow would bring a new battle, but Ellen knew one truth: there was no going back now. She had ignited something in her. Community. They felt it, she felt it. The thought sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. But with the rising sense of hopeful defiance also came a shiver of fear. Could they turn a roomful of doubt into a beacon of change? And at what cost? As the sun slipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town, Ellen sat at her kitchen table, papers strewn around her like fallen leaves. The quiet filled the space, punctuated only by the soft rustle of pages and the distant echo of laughter from her daughters playing in the living room. Their joy felt distant, almost out of reach. Tomorrow loomed large in her mind like a storm cloud ready to burst. She pressed her fingers to her temples, trying to ward off the weight of questions spinning in her head. What if the council rejected their proposal? What if all this effort led to nothing? She felt like a juggler, tossing dreams into the air. But one misstep could send everything crashing down. The sound of her daughters giggling pulled her back. They were oblivious to the tension swirling in their mother's heart, blissfully unaware of the battle ahead. Ellen smiled softly, recalling the day she first shared her dream of the play with them, how their eyes lit up as they imagined characters bursting from the pages of their favorite storybooks. Just then, a knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. She opened it to find Marie, the woman whose words had sparked the crowd's energy that night. Marie held a basket filled with homemade cookies, a bright smile on her face. I thought you might need some fuel for the big day tomorrow, she said, her spirit infectious. Thank you, Ellen replied, her heart warming at the kindness. They settled on the couch, and Maria's eyes sparkled as she talked about the support building around the play. The bakery is on board. We're going to run a fundraiser. And I heard that Floretta's boutique wants to contribute too, Marie said, her excitement bubbling over. People are rallying. You're lighting a fire in this town, Ellen. Ellen felt the flicker of hope return, igniting her spirit. But what if the council still doesn't see it? She asked, doubt sneaking back in. What if they focus only on the numbers? Marie took a breath, her face serious for a moment. You know what? It doesn't matter if they don't understand right away. Change takes time. we can still show them the heart behind this play. If we all stand together, they can't ignore us. The firelight danced between them, illuminating shared determination. Ellen recognized that this was more than just a play. It was a chance to heal, to bring joy, to weave their stories into something tangible. Together, she echoed, realization washing over her. We can create a proposal that resonates with their hearts. The night stretched on, plans coming to life with each idea they tossed around. As they finalized details, Ellen could feel a spirit of collaboration blooming, both within her and the community. Felt powerful, electrifying. At last Marie looked at her, a light in her eyes. We're gonna show them what we're made of. You just wait. Ellen nodded, the weight lifting slightly off her shoulders. She worked through the night, fueled by the promise of tomorrow. The laughter of her daughters blended with the rhythm of her writing. She was weaving their dreams, all of their dreams, into a tapestry strong enough to stand against doubt. As the dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, illuminating the gathered pages on the table. Ellen squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, whispering a silent prayer for clarity, for strength. She knew her community was behind her, but would it be enough? Tomorrow was as uncertain as the dawn was inevitable. The moment before the storm felt charged with anticipation. Ellen took a deep breath, gripping the pages tightly. As she prepared for the day ahead, the question echoed in her heart, could they really inspire the council to embrace a dream born from their collective voices? And would they be brave enough to tell the stories they held so dearly? Tomorrow would prove it all. Ellen woke to a symphony of chirping birds and the soft, golden glow of morning light flooding her kitchen. She glanced at the clock and felt her heart race. It was time to face a day that could change everything. She rushed through her routine, her mind a whirlwind of possibilities and fears. Memories of her daughters, dressed in costumes and reciting lines from their favorite characters, played on repeat in her head. Their laughter echoed like a heartbeat, and she realized her vision for the play was about more than just art. It was about their shared hopes, dreams, and the bonds they were building. With a quick breakfast and a clean sweep of the table, Ellen gathered her proposal materials and stepped outside, inhaling the fresh morning air. The sight of the town waking up felt reassuring, almost magical. People walked their dogs, children rode bicycles, and a neighbor waved as she passed. This was her community, each face familiar and friendly, ready to support her when it counted. As she arrived at the town hall, butterflies danced in her stomach. The building loomed ahead, often a place of decisions that felt distant from the heart of the people. Ellen clutched her papers like a shield. What if the council dismissed her ideas? Inside, the atmosphere was charged with nerves and anticipation. She spotted Marie, whose face lit with encouragement. You look ready. Remember, just speak from the heart, she whispered. Ellen nodded, grateful for the reminder. The council members, an austere group of 5, shuffled papers and whispered among themselves. She could see the skepticism in their eyes, the weight of numbers and budgets overshadowing their smiles. It was time to change that point. One by one, individuals from the community took their turns, sharing their stories of why this play mattered to them. An elderly man spoke of his late wife, how she loved the theater and always dreamed of being part of something magical. A local teacher shared her passion for schooling children in the arts, hoping to rekindle it in her students' hearts. Each testimony wove a layer of warmth and urgency around Ellen's growing resolve. When it was finally her turn, her hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward. The room was silent, all eyes on her. She began to speak, feeling the energy ripple through the crowd, carrying her words. She told them of the unity that blossomed in their small town, how the play wasn't just a story but a movement, a beacon of hope during uncertain times. Ellen's eyes searched the faces in the audience. The council members listened, some leaning in, others furrowed in thought. With every word, she poured her heart into the vision, a rich tapestry of dreams, love, and stories intertwining. Then, as if the atmosphere shifted, one council member cleared his throat. "Miss Jones," he began, his tone thoughtful, "while your passion is commendable, we have to prioritize our budget. A wave of disappointment washed over her. Had she really poured herself out only to hit a wall? Yet, deep inside, a flicker of determination ignited. But isn't community about more than just numbers? Is it not worth investing in the spirit of our town, in the connections between us? She could feel the room leaning closer, attention snapping back to her. The murmurs of agreement began to rise in the crowd, voices rallying behind her words. Ellen took a steadying breath, realizing that this wasn't just her fight anymore. They were all in this together, all willing to stand for what mattered. As the council debated, Ellen caught sight of her daughters peeking in through a door. Their smiles filled her with warmth, the embodiment of everything she was fighting for. Would they truly accept this dream they'd all come to share? The council's decision felt like a tide rolling toward them. Would acceptance turn this spark into a flame, or would they snuff it out before it had a chance to shine? Ellen sensed the power of possibility swirling in the air. She could wait to hear the outcome, or she could seize the moment and step closer to the precipice, ready to plunge further into the heart of the community she loved. Tomorrow, no matter what the council said, could turn out to be the start of something extraordinary or the beginning of their collective fight. What choice would they make? Ellen's heart raced as she gauged the council's expressions. In that charged moment, the world outside faded away. All that mattered was the force of her love for her daughters and the community that had gathered, united behind a common dream. She took a step forward, breaking the barrier of formality. "I know times are tough," she began, her voice steadier now. "But we can create something special together. This play can give our town a reason to come together and escape, even if just for a while." A member of the council, a woman with silver streaks in her hair, leaned forward, a spark lighting in her eyes. "What about funding?" she asked. "Where will we find the resources for costumes, sets, everything you need?" Ellen felt a rush of adrenaline. "What if we hold community fundraisers?" she suggested, eyes shining with inspiration. "We can host bake sales, talent shows, even an auction with items donated from local businesses. Everyone can contribute in some way." Some murmurs spread through the audience, hesitant but hopeful. This was the moment to dig deeper, to weave hearts into the fabric of the community. "We have artisans, bakers, teachers, and even musicians. We all have something to offer." As she spoke, she could see her daughters smiling, their eyes wide with admiration and pride. This was about them, about the belief that they could make a difference together. Just when Ellen thought she could sense the shift in the room, another council member interrupted her. "Ellen," he said, crossing his arms, "while your enthusiasm is commendable, people have reservations. Even if you pull together funds, the logistical challenges might overwhelm you." Ellen's breath hitched. Could they truly see her vision? Visions had always been fragile things, easily cast aside when tangled in doubt. But she couldn't shy away now. "Yes, it'll be tough, I won't lie. But growth never comes from comfort. We learn, we stumble, and we stand back up together." Ellen paused, feeling the weight of their gazes. If this play brings even just one child to life on stage, inspiring them to dream bigger, it's worth it. Isn't the best investment in our community watching our children soar? There was a silence that stretched, a sort of collective breath held in anticipation. The council members whispered among themselves, their brows creased in thought. Ellen's heartbeat matched the rhythm of the struggle, a fight for their collective legacy. Then, one of the council members raised her hand, signaling for quiet. It was the silver-haired woman again. "Let us consider a pilot program. Maybe we approve an initial budget to get started. If successful, we can look into expanding. But you'll need to keep everything transparent and involve the community every step of the way." Ellen felt a rush of hope igniting the air around her. "I promise we'll level with everyone." Marie beamed from the corner, and the murmurs of agreement grew louder, swelling like a tide. It wasn't just about Ellen anymore. It was the town rallying alongside her. "All right then," the silver-haired woman said, glancing at her fellow council members. "Let us take a vote." As the members began to raise their hands, Ellen felt her stomach twist with anticipation. Would they? The energy in the room shifted palpably, a current of possibility. A hand shot up, then another. One by one, it happened, their hopes crystallizing. When the final count came in, cheers erupted from the crowd. Ellen's heart soared, her mind racing with plans, possibilities, and passion. But just as the exhilaration settled in, a sinking dread tugged at her mind. There was so much to manage ahead, and how would she balance her family with this new responsibility? Would the stress pull them apart or bring them closer together? As the crowd celebrated, Ellen's thoughts spiraled with questions. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, obstacles yet unforeseen, and the weight of responsibility would rest squarely on her shoulders. And as she stood there, amid the celebration, she realized it wouldn't just be her story anymore. It would belong to all of them, the town she so loved. Would it feel like a journey they could walk together? Or would the cracks of anxiety and doubt start to emerge as they moved forward? That night, as she embraced her daughters, Ellen couldn't help but feel that the real struggle was just beginning. How would they navigate this new chapter, and what dreams still lay ahead, waiting to be uncovered? The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow across the table. Ellen sipped her coffee, her hands trembling slightly. The day felt heavy, laden with new responsibilities. She knew the excitement from last night's vote would soon clash with the reality of organizing the play. "Mom, are we really going to do a play?" Marie asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and wonder. It was a simple question, but it struck a chord deep within Ellen. Ellen nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. "Yes, darling. We are going to bring something beautiful to life. It'll be a lot of work, but it's going to be amazing." Her daughters exchanged excited glances, their imagination already painting the scenes. Ellen loved that look, the spark of creativity lighting their eyes. But the responsibility she felt was almost suffocating. "Can I help?" asked Claire, her younger daughter, bouncing in her seat. Ellen's heart swelled. "Absolutely. Both of you will help. We'll need all hands on deck." As they tucked into breakfast, Ellen's phone buzzed. It was a message from the local bakery owner. She had already reached out, offering to host a bake sale next weekend to kick things off. That was promising, but could Ellen keep up with everything? Her mind raced through lists of tasks. Recruiting actors, finding volunteers, securing a venue. Thoughts tangled and twisted like threads in a tapestry. "Mom?" Marie's tentative voice broke through her reverie. "You look worried." Ellen took a deep breath. How could she explain the pressure? "Just thinking about all the things we need to do," she finally said, trying to keep her tone light. "Maybe we could make a list," Claire suggested, her face earnest. That simple idea stirred something inside Ellen, a flicker of clarity. Sometimes breaking things down was all it took to feel less overwhelmed. "Great idea, Claire," Ellen said, a wave of relief washing over her. They began jotting down ideas, laughter bubbling up as they brainstormed costume ideas and set designs. A sound of excitement filled the room as the family dove deeper into the planning. For the first time that day, Ellen felt the weight lift just a little. They were in this together, and if they stayed united, maybe they could conquer the chaos. Later, while sorting through the community center's calendar, Ellen encountered a new challenge. An unexpected festival would clash with their planned show date. Panic surged within her. This was turning into a juggling act she was unsure she could manage. "Mom!" Marie burst into the room, waving her arms. "Can we do a dance number? And what if we had a shadow play in the background for dramatic effect?" Ellen looked at her daughter, gears turning in her mind. "That could work. But we need lots of practice. We can practice every day after school." Some of the tension eased, and Ellen's heart swelled with pride. Their enthusiasm was contagious. But just as quickly, she recalled the looming challenges. How would they coordinate all these moving parts? Could they really do this together? As her daughters chatted excitedly about visions for the play, Ellen stared out the window, the vibrant fall leaves fluttering outside. She hoped they could overcome the obstacles before them. But doubt crept in like a shadow. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across their tiny home, Ellen made a resolve. They would meet this head-on together. After all, no great journey is without its struggles. All right, team. This evening, we start planning our next steps, Ellen declared, a renewed sense of determination coursing through her. Yay! The girls cheered, their voices ringing with promise. But deep down, Ellen wondered if this excitement would last. Would they pull together in times of stress? Or would it all become too much? What hidden challenges lay in wait just around the corner, waiting to test their resolve? The afternoon sun began its descent, casting golden rays that filtered through the kitchen, where Ellen and her daughters gathered around the dining table strewn with art supplies. It was a riot of colors, as they planned poster designs and sketched scenes for their play. Okay, what do we want on the main poster? Ellen asked, her voice bright, trying to mask the lingering strain she felt. The girls bounced in their seats, eager to answer. Sparkles, Claire shouted, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. And a giant sun, Marie said, waving her hand in the air. It has to show that this is a fun play. Ellen smiled at their creativity. It reminded her why she took on this project in the first place. It was about family, joy, and the magic of storytelling. Sparkles and sunshine it is, she agreed, jotting it down. But in the back of her mind, uncertainty lingered. As they worked, Ellen's phone pinged again. This time it was a voicemail from the community center. Her gut twisted as she imagined bad news. A gruff voice filled the room, informing her that another event had been booked the day they planned to rehearse. Mom? Marie asked, noticing her sudden stillness. What is it? Nothing to worry about. Just Ellen hesitated, the tension knotting inside her. We'll have to find a new time to rehearse. Can't we just do it in the backyard? Claire suggested, her face lighting up with hope. The naive optimism in her voice had a way of melting away Ellen's reservations. Yes, we can, can't we? Marie chimed in, picking up on her sister's energy. Ellen's heart sank just a bit further. It's probably not the best idea, sweeties. I mean, what if it rains? She could see her daughters' faces clouding over, disappointment settling in like an unwanted guest. Twisted her heart. But we can make a tent. Claire was thinking of solutions, her small hands creating imaginary structures in the air. Ellen's resolve faltered. A tent could work, then it will be a grand adventure. Marie said, her excitement reigniting. The burden of what-ifs floated in the air. But for a moment, Ellen let their enthusiasm wash over her like a wave. All right, we'll make a backup plan for rehearsals in the yard. But everyone has to help. Absolutely. They cheered, determination echoing through the room once more as the conversation shifted back to fun ideas for their characters. Ellen felt as if she were standing on a tightrope. The laughter filled her heart, but somewhere deep inside, the fears and uncertainties were still lurking. What if they couldn't pull this off? She glanced at her daughters, so filled with hope. Hey girls, she interrupted gently. I might have to reach out to some parents for help. There's a lot to do, and we can't handle it all alone. Claire nodded, her enthusiasm unwavering. That's smart. We can build a team. Yes, Marie said, her eyes brightening. Mom, we can be a whole family of creators. Ellen chuckled softly. Their joy seemed so genuine. It made her hope flicker back to life. As they wrapped up their afternoon planning, she couldn't shake the concern that still clung to her. What if the help didn't come? Or worse, what if they faced challenges that felt insurmountable? Later that evening, Ellen lay in bed, the weight of the world pressing down. The night was quiet, but it did nothing to still her racing thoughts. What challenges would be waiting for them tomorrow? With a shaky breath, she leaned back against the pillow. Perhaps by involving the community, they could uncover something unexpected. With each passing moment, her determination began to solidify in her mind. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, I take the first step to bring everyone together. And as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder. What if asking for help led to a stronger connection with those around them? Would they discover support in places she never expected? The morning sun peeked through the curtains, filling the room with a soft glow. Ellen stretched, her mind still tangled in thoughts of her ambitious project. Could they really pull this off? With a determined nod to herself, she swung her legs over the side of the bed. Okay, today's the day, she murmured. The first step was the hardest, but she felt her resolve strengthen with each passing moment. In the kitchen, she found Claire and Marie already buzzing with energy, drawing more posters for the play. Ellen couldn't help but smile at their passion. It was contagious. "Good morning, girls," she chimed, pouring a cup of coffee. "We have an exciting day ahead. Can we call Mrs. Johnson?" Claire asked, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. "She can help us with the costumes." "Yes. Let us see if she is free," Ellen replied, her heart warming. It was a simple idea but a good one. Mrs. Johnson loved theater and always had a flair for creativity. After breakfast, they gathered around the dining table, the poster art still scattered about. Ellen grabbed her phone and hesitated for just a moment. "All right, girls, let us make the call together." With a few rings, Mrs. Johnson's familiar voice flowed through the speaker. Ellen introduced themselves and quickly explained their plans, feeling a rush of excitement. "Oh, that sounds magnificent," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed. "I'd love to help. How about I come over tomorrow to discuss the costumes?" "Yes. Thank you." Ellen felt relief wash over her. One hurdle down, many more to come, but they were not alone. After the call, the girls broke into cheers, filling Elena's heart with joy. "See, Mom? Teamwork makes it all happen," Marie exclaimed, her small hands pumping in the air. "Yes, it does," Ellen said, enthusiasm matching hers. But as the day wore on, the reality of their plans crept back in. Ellen knew they had so much more to tackle. With the backyard rehearsal looming, she felt a cold knot in her stomach again. They needed help, but who else could they reach out to? "Let us make a list of who we can ask," she suggested, grabbing a notepad. The girls lit up again, jotting names of friends, neighbors, and even familiar faces from the local park. Ellen glanced at the paper filled with potential names. Every name was a thread of connection leading to the community they loved. She smiled, realizing they were building something bigger than just a play. They were weaving a tapestry of support. Later that evening, they planned a little gathering to discuss their project. Ellen wanted to invite a few parents, hoping they would catch the same fire her daughters had. Would they be willing to jump on board? Ellen's excitement mingled with nerves as she considered how much was at stake as they prepared invitations. Claire turned to her mother. "Mom, what will we say when we invite them?" Ellen bit her lip, caught off guard. "Maybe we should just be honest. Tell them about our play and how we all need help. Yeah. And that it'll be fun," Marie added, her enthusiasm infectious. Ellen felt her heart swell. "Exactly. We can highlight the joy of it. This is about bringing everyone together." As they finished the invitations, Ellen felt something stir within her. This challenge had the potential to connect them all, to create a real sense of community. That night, Ellen lay in bed thinking about the day ahead. She was ready to put herself out there, but the fear of rejection gnawed at her. What if no one responded? She pressed her palms together and whispered a small prayer for courage. If they could just take this leap together, maybe they could find even greater rewards. What if, once they reached out, they discovered talents and friendships just waiting to bloom? But as this thought danced in her mind, another worry crept in. Were they ready for whatever came next? With a deep breath, she allowed herself to drift into sleep, visions of glittering costumes, and excited faces filling her dreams. Tomorrow would be a big day. But was it the beginning of something extraordinary or a step too far into the unknown? The sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the town, echoing Elena's hope as she prepared for the meeting with the parents. She had a flutter of excitement in her belly. The gathering felt almost like the opening night of a performance, and her role was to usher everyone into the story she envisioned. Claire and Marie buzzed around her like cheerful fireflies, their anticipation infectious. "Can we decorate the living room with streamers?" Claire asked, her voice animated. Ellen chuckled, nodding. "Absolutely. Let us make this gathering special." As they arranged colorful ribbons and hanging decorations, the atmosphere shimmered with possibility. Neighbors began to arrive, drawn in by the warmth of Ellen's enthusiasm and her daughter's laughter. She welcomed each one at the door, thrilled by the promise of camaraderie. "Thank you all for coming. Today, we're not just planning a play. We're starting a community movement," Ellen projected, her heart swelling at their eager faces. As everyone settled around her, Ellen took a breath. "You all know my dream of uniting our town with a Shakespearean play. I believe it has the potential to bring us closer together," she shared. Looking from one familiar face to another, an excited murmur rippled through the gathered parents, and Ellen felt their energy start to build. She recounted her vision, weaving tales of connection, exploration, and creativity, her voice animated with passion. "Alongside the art, we can share our own stories, strong stories about love, about struggles, about resilience. Count me in," shouted Mrs. Johnson, who had just arrived with boxes of fabric. Her voice burst forth with enthusiasm. "I have tons of ideas for costuming." That spark ignited a frenzy of responses. "I can arrange snacks," one father offered. Another chimed in, "I have a friend who owns a print shop. We can get our posters done for free." Ellen watched as their excitement turned into a whirlwind of brainstorming, laughter filling the room. Each voice carried weight. Each person was a thread in the fabric of their community. "This is what I envisioned," she thought, her heart swelling as everyone threw ideas into the mix. Each suggestion was a brushstroke, painting a landscape of hope and potential when they worked together. But just as she began to feel the rush of confidence, a familiar nagging doubt flickered in. "What if this doesn't work out?" A whispering voice in her mind nagged. "What if everything falls apart?" Suddenly, her daughters clambered up next to her. "You've got this, Mom," Claire beamed, squeezing her hand with a fierce grip, as if anchoring Ellen to the moment. "We're all here together. It'll all be amazing." Hearing their encouragement, Ellen felt revitalized. The doubt slipped away, and she resolved to rise above. As plans full of creativity came together, Ellen grasped a large piece of paper and began jotting down tasks, facts, and commitments. They rallied behind her, a chorus of collaborating voices yielding to an undeniable symphony of unity and purpose. Weeks flew by. The backyard transformed into a vibrant rehearsal space, filled with laughter, energy, and boundless creativity. Parents, kids, and neighbors chipped in tirelessly, until Ellen could hardly recognize the struggle, only the exuberance of life surging all around. On opening night, Ellen stood backstage, her breath catching at the sight of a transformed community. The stage was set, adorned with colorful sets and sparkling costumes. Friends and family buzzed through the crowd, their smiles building a sea of warmth. Her heart swelled as she caught sight of her daughters peeking from behind the curtain, their eyes shimmering with excitement. Every ounce of hard work, every tear shed in doubt, every late night filled with anxiety had led to this moment. As the curtain finally lifted, the audience erupted into applause. They could feel the joy in the air, a palpable energy coursing through them. Ellen beamed as the first lines were spoken. Every tale told felt like a thread pulling this community closer together. They laughed, they cheered, and they found solace in the shared stories spun together that day. When the final bow was taken, the applause roared, and Ellen felt tears welling in her eyes. This was more than just a play. It was a community reborn. In that moment, she could see the connections forming, friendships igniting, and a deeper understanding of each other emerging. As Ellen stepped back to her daughters, a wave of pure joy washed over her. "We did it," she exclaimed, embracing them tightly. It wasn't just her dream realized. It was theirs, too. Their laughter melted away previous struggles, transforming into a tangible bond that would endure far beyond the curtain call. In the blinding light of hope and triumph, Ellen understood that real transformation starts within a community willing to share its heart. And with beaming smiles and full hearts, they had begun a new chapter together. So if you've been inspired by Ellen's journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below how this story made you feel. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Together we can keep the magic alive.